Hello everybody. It's been a great opportunity to do something totally new and actually create a whole portfolio of whisky from the start, but we were able to create effectively 7 new variants, very much driven by flavour, very much driven by different occasions, inspired by different parts of Scotland. William Grant & Sons is traditionally a whisky blender. So William Grant started the business 1887 when he built Glenfiddich Distillery, but even right from the start it was about creating blended whiskies. And so for the last 50 or 60 years we've been working with pretty much every other distiller in Scotland, exchanging whiskies. So we bring in whisky from 30 or 40 different single malt distilleries every year. We bring them into our distillery in the south of Scotland called Gerdvin. We fill them into our own casks and we mature them, and we've been doing that for decades. So it now means we've got this phenomenal array of whisky from really every part of Scotland, every part in terms of the flavour map, but also every part in terms of geography. So as a master blender, I'm able to now access those stocks and look at whiskies ranging from 20, 30, 40, even older, literally across the full flavour spectrum of Scotch single malt, and use those stocks to then create the Wildmoor range. The one thing I can't tell you is what whiskies are in there. So essentially we work with all the partners, and the only agreement we have is that we will never disclose which distilleries we use. They're from every part of Scotland, they're from every distillery you can imagine, but I can't tell you. What I'm looking for is very specific flavours that will then work in each expression. So each expression is inspired by a location. So we are unbelievably fortunate in Scotland to have a relatively small country, but with a very diverse geography and very diverse feeling in terms of different locations feel very different, from the from the centre of Scotland with the moorlands all the way through to some of our coastlines that are significantly more rugged and more exposed, and you actually feel like you're in a totally different place. So to be able to take each expression and anchor it, the feeling of the land, the feeling of the weather and the exposure to the elements, and then using that as an inspiration to create the flavour for the whisky has been a really, for me, a brilliant journey. Yeah, so the key thing on the 21-year-old is sweetness. So if there's one word that's going to stand out when anybody tries this, it's sweetness. Everything's American oak. Sweetness, it just runs through the blend. But there's different types, so we use virgin American oak. That pushes the vanilla, toffee, actually heads towards a little bit of spicy, and you've got to be quite careful not to overdo that. We then use refill American oak, which basically means it's been used at least once before. It just adds a lovely candy, sugary, just general mouthfeel and sweetness. And then importantly, we use some refill hogsheads. Now refill hogsheads for us typically mean the cask is a good bit older, therefore you get more of the distillery character and less of the cask character. And then it's basically building the blend where we want to taste the distilleries, we then want to have that underlying general sweetness, and then just little spikes of the spicy, more intense virgin oak, and build them all together so you get that lovely kind of whole rounded flavour. So just to drink it as it stands, either neat as we are having here, or on the rocks, or even in a highball with with ice and soda. It's definitely built for that versatility. Like I said, we've been effectively curating ancient reserves stock within William Grant & Sons for the past 50 or 60 years, and building up some really old whiskies. So as part of this launch, we have access to those old whiskies. So the 30-year-old, it's called Rugged Coast. It's very much inspired by the coastline of Scotland. It's got a little bit of smokiness, so we can call on some distilleries that have a smoky character, just enough to make it so you can feel it's there, but it's not dominating, and sort of build up the flavour profile. And then similarly on the 40-year-old, we can take it to a new level of intensity, a really deep, rich, luxurious whiskey that it's a brilliant experience to be able to use those stocks, create whiskies of such a great age, and then launch them across the world.